If you're anything like me, you turn on the news and it just feels relentless. Constant headlines about global conflict. It's easy to feel like it's an impossible problem. But what if the answer isn't just tweaking the system we have, but building a new one from the ground up? In this explainer, we're diving into a pretty radical idea, a blueprint for collective security that's designed to work where everything else has failed. So let's jump right in.
Okay, so before we can even talk about a fix, we have to get real about just how big the problem is. I mean, you see it everywhere, right? From the Middle East to Eastern Europe. These aren't small skirmishes. We're talking about deep, entrenched conflicts that are tearing entire regions apart. And the damage? It goes way, way beyond the battlefield. We're talking about millions of people forced from their homes, economies just tanking, and this growing feeling that the very institutions meant to protect us, well, they just can't. Just take a look at these dates for a second. The wars we hear about today, they're not new, not even close. Many of these conflicts have been raging for decades, literally outlasting generations of people. I mean, think about this. The conflict in Myanmar started back in 1948. That's insane. These aren't just news cycles. They are deep, permanent wounds on the world that our current systems seem completely powerless to heal. And the human cost, it's just staggering. Let this number really sink in for a moment. Over 13 million people. That's how many have been displaced by the Syrian civil war alone. That is more than half the country's entire pre-war population, just gone from their homes. This isn't just a statistic on a screen. It's a profound global failure, plain and simple.
So you gotta ask the tough question, right? Why? Why is our global peacekeeping system so paralyzed? With all these powerful institutions, why can't we stop this? Let's peel back the layers and get to the real root cause of this gridlock.
You know, it really boils down to one single incredibly powerful mechanism, the veto. At the UN Security Council, any one of the 5 permanent members, just one, can shoot down any resolution. It doesn't matter if every other country on Earth agrees. This isn't some accidental flaw in the system. It was designed this way, and the result is total and complete paralysis.
And you can see the real-world fallout right here. In Syria, resolutions to condemn the use of chemical weapons? Vetoed. In Myanmar, trying to take action against a military coup? Flocked. And when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the U.S. has used its veto over 40 times. Again and again and again, the self-interest of just one powerful nation brings the entire international community to a grinding halt.
But here's the crazy part. Even when the UN can act, the missions themselves are often hamstrung from the start. Just think of Srebrenica. It was a UN safe zone, yet peacekeepers couldn't stop a massacre. Or Rwanda, where UN forces were actually pulled back right as the genocide was kicking off. So here's the bottom line. These missions are consistently underfunded. They take forever to deploy, and they often lack the actual authority to use force to protect the very people they're sent to save.
Okay, so that's a pretty grim picture, I know. But what if there was another way? A way to actually break this cycle of failure? Well, a bold new idea has started to bubble up from the wreckage of this old system. It's called the Global Peace Alliance, and it's specifically designed to fix these problems we've been talking about. So, what exactly is the Global Peace Alliance, or GPA? Okay, imagine a totally new kind of military alliance. It's supranational, which is a fancy way of saying it operates above the political interests of any one country. And look, this isn't like NATO, which is really about its own members defending each other. The GPA would be global. Its one and only job, to enforce peace everywhere for everyone by completely bypassing that gridlocked Security Council. So let's put it side by side. How is this really different? Well, on one side, you've got our current system. It's slow, it has to beg for troops from different countries, and it's completely stuck in political mud because of the veto. On the other side, you have the GPA proposal. It's fast, it has its own dedicated standing force ready to go, and it's completely free from the veto. It's basically the difference between asking for permission to put out a fire and having your own fire department ready to roll, no questions asked. All right, that all sounds great on paper. But how would this actually work in the real world? Let's break down the mechanics of what a GPA intervention would look like.
The whole process is designed for one thing: speed. Step 1. The GPA issues a binding ceasefire ultimatum. No ifs, ands, or buts. Step 2. If anyone ignores it, the Rapid Deployment Force gets the green light. Step 3. Those forces hit the ground with a crystal-clear mission, enforce the peace, secure aid routes for civilians, and protect people. It's only after that, after the violence has stopped, that the mission turns to the long-term work of stabilization and reconciliation. And this whole thing is built on a few really smart principles. First, joining is voluntary. No one's forced in. But, and this is key, once you're in, your promises to provide troops and resources are mandatory. They're reliable. All the forces would operate under one single neutral command, so there's no infighting. And, critically, every single mission would have a clear exit strategy tied to real, measurable goals. This isn't about endless occupations. It's about getting the job done and getting out.
So why even bother with a radical idea like this? Well, because the alternative, sticking with what we're doing now, comes at a cost that is almost impossible to comprehend.
Let's just talk about the money for a second. The U.S. alone spent over $2 trillion on the war in Afghanistan. Just try to get your head around that number. $2 trillion. Think about what that kind of money could have done for healthcare, for education, for climate change. Instead, it was poured into a 2-decade conflict that, well, didn't exactly bring lasting peace. This isn't just expensive, it's a catastrophic waste.
Honestly, the financial cost pales in comparison to the human one. Look at Syria. Millions of children aren't in school. That's a whole generation whose future has been stolen. A quarter of the population is dealing with severe mental health trauma. And you see the same story everywhere. From Yemen to Somalia, millions of people driven from their homes, completely dependent on aid to survive. These are not just pie chart slices, they are millions of shattered lives and broken families.
And the damage doesn't just stop when the fighting does. As this report from the World Bank makes brutally clear, war leaves behind this toxic legacy of broken institutions, lost potential, and deep, persistent poverty. Recovery isn't a matter of years, it's a matter of decades, trapping entire nations in this vicious cycle of instability.
So really, it all comes down to this, doesn't it? We've got a system that's paralyzed. We're paying a catastrophic price, both in lives and in treasure. And on the table, there's a bold idea for a different way forward. The question isn't just for politicians anymore. It's for all of us. Are we finally ready to choose genuine collective security over the devastating cost of endless conflict?